One thing that ties them all together is their extreme focus towards one goal.
What does that keep them focused? Is there anything surprising that we don't know yet, or people find that very surprising ways to be focused on whatever they are building or achieving?
The productivity industry these days is worth, I think the last time I looked, it was worth something close to $10 billion. So a lot of people like me telling you, how to be more productive, how to stay focused. There's so many apps and books and extensions on your computer of how to build better habits and stay focused. All you have to do is keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if today you walk 2 steps, tomorrow I want you to walk 3 steps. That's it. I don't care about anything else. And taking those big goals and breaking them down into just tiny, tiny steps really helps you get that kind of motivation to get out of bed.
Big dreams don't come quietly. They demand risk, they demand fire, they demand crazy transformation. Welcome to the corporate life. Hosted by Hina, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media and creator of the Let's Make You Famous 90-Day Celebrity Campaign and media strategist featured across 600 plus global outlets. Join us as we sit with million-dollar entrepreneurs, tech CEOs, and celebrities who share the scenes that shape them. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions behind their rise. Because your life is a movie too, and you're the star of yours.
Spotlight. Tara lived behind it. For years, she worked with some of the biggest performers in the world, the Rolling Stones, Lady Gaga, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, in environments that look glamorous from the outside. But behind the scenes, it's controlled chaos. And her role make everything work, silently, invisibly. But here is where the story shifts. Because the same person who could manage chaos at the highest level found herself in a moment where her own business looked successful on paper and was quietly falling apart. And that's a story most people don't talk about. And then one day she hears someone say that their success came from something soft and simple like taking long, relaxing baths. And in that moment, something did not feel right. Because when you have actually lived through pressure, debt, and rebuilding, you know success is not built on surface level habits. That moment became a turning point. Today, Tara works with founders, creators, and high performers to build the systems that actually hold everything together behind the scenes. Because talent is not the problem. What's missing is structure. This is Tara Stubbins, and this is her movie.
One thing that ties them all together is their extreme focus towards one goal.
What does that keep them focused? Is there anything surprising that we don't know yet, or people find that very surprising ways to be focused on whatever they are building or achieving?
The productivity industry these days is worth, I think the last time I looked, it was worth something close to $10 billion. So a lot of people like me telling you, how to be more productive, how to stay focused. There's so many apps and books and extensions on your computer of how to build better habits and stay focused. All you have to do is keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if today you walk 2 steps, tomorrow I want you to walk 3 steps. That's it. I don't care about anything else. And taking those big goals and breaking them down into just tiny, tiny steps really helps you get that kind of motivation to get out of bed.
Big dreams don't come quietly. They demand risk, they demand fire, they demand crazy transformation. Welcome to the corporate life. Hosted by Hina, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media and creator of the Let's Make You Famous 90-Day Celebrity Campaign and media strategist featured across 600 plus global outlets. Join us as we sit with million-dollar entrepreneurs, tech CEOs, and celebrities who share the scenes that shape them. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions behind their rise. Because your life is a movie too, and you're the star of yours.
Tara, you have spent a decade working behind the scenes with some of the most iconic performers like Rolling Stones, Lady Gaga, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Elon Musk, which is my dream guest for the podcast. I would love you if you could just help me get him on the show, and Richard Branson. What does that feel like from the inside? Because the public only sees the stage.
It's very true. Very good question. It's a lot different behind the scenes. People, I think, always glamorize it and think that it's, all this champagne and big
Yeah.
parties and lots of great fun, everything happening. And really, it's a lot of work. They're normal people, so it's, normal lives. But what I have always found fascinating, because of kind of my journey through my own business, building my own businesses, was I've always been fascinated with, why them? Why is Mick Jagger Mick Jagger? Why is Elon Musk Elon Musk? Like, what makes him tick? And what
Mm.
makes all these people so successful and not somebody else on the other side, on the street. And I always find it really interesting that most people think it's the way they spend their days. So, it's their morning routines or what they eat for breakfast or dinner or, their nighttime routines. But really, that
Discipline
has nothing.
in the process.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
has nothing really to do with it, and all these really successful people have very different ways of looking how they go about their everyday, how they wake up in the morning and what they do, but the one thing that ties them all together is their extreme focus towards one goal. And so they know that, I'm going to build this, or this needs to be built, or I'm going to record this, or I'm going to sell out this massive stadium. And all they do is just focus on that. And they just know how to block everything else out and remain focused. Now, their morning routines and everything help them stay focused, but their discipline, as you said, and their focus is really interesting to me to watch and be witness to.
Yeah. So, how did you feel? Like, obviously, you were feeling very motivated and inspired because you're surrounded by the people who actually are focused on such big goals and things. Yeah. So, how did your journey change, and what did you actually learn by working with these iconic people?
Yeah, so I'll take you back for a little bit about kind of how I got started in the industry. So, I started out with unknown bands. I'm Canadian, so going across Canada in these like little tiny vans. But all I really wanted was to be part of the music industry because I loved music and I thought that I wanted to be a rock star, but I knew that I had 0 musical talent at all. I can't sing, I have a guitar behind me, but when I play it, it sounds like a dying animal. I am horrible at it, but I loved it. So I thought, the way I can get into it is maybe just, like, help people, and I'll just get their coffee forever. I don't care. At least I'm part of this, this community. And as I started working in it and, getting their coffee and doing all the little work that's not very glamorous, I actually realized that I loved it. And I loved it not because I was in the music industry, but because I was helping people achieve some form of their own dream. And I realized that that was what actually drove me, was helping others achieve their dream and being on the back end or behind the scenes of it. And that's what I wanted more of. I didn't necessarily want more of the lights and camera and glam. I could take that or leave that, but seeing that maybe one little thing that I did helped them be a better performer or achieve the goal that they were super focused on. That's what I wanted more of, and that's what I was craving on a day to day. But it's really interesting because, as I said, I always thought, oh, I want to be a rock star, but I had no musical talent. I can't play an instrument. I definitely can't sing. And so in the back of my head, I was always wondering, like, why them? Like, why are they the rock stars, as I said? So as I went through my journey of, helping them backstage, I realized that there were ways that they became the rock star of like creating that discipline and being focused and understanding how to ask for help. And there's people who did it a lot better than others. And then I also understood that there was a lot of different ways to classify yourself as a rock star or as a
Yeah.
star. You didn't necessarily need to be the person on this stage. There was a whole team of people who were helping this like one person who was standing on the stage or running the company or whatever it was. And as I went through my journey of, chasing these rock stars around the world, I realized that I wanted more of that, and I wanted to help more than one crazy rock star at a time. So I decided to come off the road and open up my first business, which was, again, just with this dream to help more than one crazy rock star at a time. And as I was doing that, I learned more and more and more about how you actually run a business. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was I call myself a dirty roadie. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I had to lean on the principles of these really successful people to help me understand how to run a business. So what was
Right.
my goal? What did I want to focus on? What was I going to do in the day to day? Because everyone always, as entrepreneurs, you always get distracted. There's so many things to do. And I
Yeah.
realized that, these rock stars, they don't get distracted. They know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
So what
So
does that
that really helped me.
Yeah. So what does that keep them focused? Like, is there anything surprising that we don't know yet, or people find that very surprising ways to keep, like, to be focused on whatever they are building or achieving, or any
Yeah.
uncomfortable truths out there? Did you find anything?
Not really anything earth-shattering or uncomfortable. It's just really fascinating how focused and dedicated they are to what they're building. You can see it with athletes too. Basketball stars who you hear will go out and run or shoot, 300 baskets a day, every single day, no matter what. Or, Olympic track and field who will get up and run even if they have a broken foot because that's their discipline. And they really understand that focusing on their goal is what gets you better. There's actually a really interesting math equation that's kind of thrown around in Hollywood. And it's 20% plus 20% plus 80% plus 20% doesn't equal 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what does that mean? Well, if you focus 20% of your time here and 80% of your time here and 20% of your time over here, you're not really focusing on that
You will
end goal.
dilute your focus, and then nothing worthwhile would come out of that.
Exactly. And, the productivity industry these days is worth, I think the last time I looked, it was worth something close to $10 billion. So a lot of people like me telling you, how to be more productive, how to stay focused. There's so many apps and books and, extensions on your computer of like how to build better habits and stay focused. But I find that all very distracting because really, if you just simplify it, I have this goal, I want to achieve it. What are these things that I need to do to achieve those goals? Let's not get focused on, this app that may or may not track what I'm doing. Let's get focused on actually getting out of bed and doing the thing.
Hmm.
And that's, I think people will overcomplicate things. And you know what? I've been through really, really hard times. And I know that sometimes getting out of bed is very hard. And that's
It
the biggest
is. It is,
challenge.
right? I think
Yeah.
that resilience is a big word. We talk a lot about that. But then when it comes to waking up at 8 a.m. on a bad day and get things done when everything is just falling apart, it's not an easy thing to do. But then
No.
uh, it's like it looks like a fantasy that, okay, just build resilience, and uh, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And there's going to be days that you're not going to do it. And that's okay. I think everyone thinks that, these rock stars and these really successful business owners are perfect every single day. And they're not. They have their bad days too. They're just not aired out in the public, their bad days. So, if you are really struggling to get out of bed at 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever your goal is, and maybe you did it one day and then like a month went by and you just couldn't do it, well, you did it that one day. So let's focus on that and let's maybe try to do 2 days. Um, when I went through a massive business failure, which I like to talk about because I know that lots of people don't talk about it or they kind of fluff over the bad parts of business. And when I went through my massive business failure, I found it extremely hard to get out of bed. And small things like brushing your teeth or feeding yourself proper meals or just really doing anything was really hard. And what frustrated me the most was you hear people say, just get out of bed and just, meditate for 20 minutes and then do some yoga and then run on a treadmill and you'll feel better. And it's like, but that's really hard. So one of my mentors told me, all you have to do is keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if today you walk 2 steps, tomorrow I want you to walk 3 steps. That's it. I don't care about anything else. And taking those big goals and breaking them down into just tiny, tiny steps really helps you get that kind of motivation to get out of bed.
Just take me back to the moment where you were facing those business problems and the failure, and what was that about, and how did you reach that failure? I mean, what all was going
Yeah.
on in your life?
Yeah. So, again, I mentioned that I have zero business background at all. I didn't know what I was doing when I started my first business. And when I started my second business, it was my first business was still running, and I kind of started a second business on the side. And I did a number of things wrong, but I didn't know that I was doing them wrong. So the first thing is I hired a friend. Sounds wonderful. And we actually grew the business to a point where the business was really, really successful. And she had a large part in helping me grow that business to that point. But the problem is the business got bigger than what she could manage on the business sales and development side of things, beyond her control. And she wasn't willing to see that. And because we were friends, it was very hard to have that conversation with her. So things got extremely tense within the business. There was a lot of internal just fighting. It just wasn't great, and tension, because the business was too big. We knew we couldn't go on without bringing in other help, but she thought she needed to. I didn't want to have that conversation, so it was really bad. The other thing is that one thing that I thought I knew from looking at these and working with these really successful people was I saw them set a goal and then they would go after that goal. So I want to sell 1 million records. And then they would go after that selling 1 million records. Or, I want to open up an airline. So I'm going to open up an airline. And they go after and do that. So I thought, well, all you have to do is set a big number and then break it down and go for that number.
Yeah.
Go after it. So I would set random numbers. Oh, wouldn't it be great to bring in 100 new clients this year for our service-based business? And so we did it, but did we do it the right way? No. Did we bring in the right clients that match the business? Absolutely not. Did we have the system in place to be able to support 100 clients? No, not even close. Our hiring pipeline or our hiring system at one point was, can you start tomorrow and pass a background check? Yes. Okay, great. You're hired. So things fell apart extremely quickly because we were chasing the wrong numbers.
So did you ever think that, I would just like to ask you this question before we go on from here, that did you ever think that working with these big people. Did that have any negative impact on the kind of business that you were doing?
I don't think it had any negative impacts. The only problem was I made too many assumptions at the very
Mm.
beginning without asking the right questions because I didn't know to what questions to ask at that point. So I had this amazing network of all these really successful people, and I could have tapped into them, but I thought I knew what I was doing. And until I realized the nuances behind what they were doing, then I realized the power of how I could tap into their success. But at the beginning, I wasn't tapping into it correct at all. I because I didn't know. And so I went from a business that was making almost 750K monthly to almost like under 20K monthlies. And we crashed and burned in a matter of 3 months. And so then I had to sit there and think, who am I? What am I doing? Am I supposed to be running a business? Should I go back and just support these rock stars? What business should I run? Should I be by myself? Should I have a business partner? All of these questions were coming through my mind. There was lawsuits. It was not a great time. And so not only did I have to figure out, do I want to get out of bed and create a business again, but I had to kind of figure out, do I want to get out of bed and deal with all these problems that I have as well? So that's what was really hard for me, is one, deciding who I was, and two, deciding, okay, if that's who I am, now I have to deal with all these problems too. And how am I going to deal with these problems?
So how
And
long
I
did you?
always came back to the thing that I said at the very, very beginning, and that's just I crave helping people, and I just wanted to help more than one crazy rock star at a time. And I knew deep down in my soul that that was me, and that's just what I wanted to continue to do.
So how long was that period of struggle? What did you? I mean,
So
look
it went
from that.
on. So and I think a lot of people think that it's very linear. Like, okay,
Mm.
you have, some, extremely really bad days where you're struggling a lot, and then you get better, and then things are great, and then woo, you're off to the races. But no. So for me, I had, a couple of weeks of like really bad days, and then I just wanted to forget everything and just push past, like, okay, that was great. Let's forget everything. Let's just brute force my way through building a business again. Well, that didn't work because I was trying to do everything the same, because I was like, I can just prove myself here. So, realized that that didn't work, had some more really bad days, and then I was like, "Okay, well, maybe I should try to do a pivot in my business." And so that made me excited a little bit, which helped me, get out of bed and kind of work on the business again. But the problem was I was scared. I was scared to make the pivot because I didn't have any proof that it would work. I didn't know what I was doing. So I kind of was half in, half out for probably a year. And I was confusing everyone because they would say, "What do you do?" And I would half say one thing and half say another thing, and then I was confusing myself because I didn't know what I was doing either, and no clients were coming in because everyone was confused. So then that caused a lot of pain with, like, keeping the lights on and what am I doing again? And so that was another kind of upward and then downward moment. Really excited to do the pivot, scared, and then, like, nothing's happening. And then until I finally realized that I just have to jump 2 feet, all go for it, just here we go, we're making this pivot, we're going back to what I love, what I care about, the roots of who I am, and you're either with me or you're not, and let's go. And until I actually fully 100% jumped in, nothing happened. And when I did it, that's when I could feel the momentum that would help
Mm.
me actually kind of relaunch into the business that I'm running today.
Yeah. So many founders take personal loans to keep their companies alive, but almost no one talks about it publicly, including myself. What made you decide to share that part of your story?
I just think it's really important to know that uh, most people do it, and that I know that when I was going through really rough times, I was getting really frustrated that there was no real advice out there to kind of go, oh, I'm not alone in this situation. That's all I kind of wanted to hear. Oh, I'm not the only stupid one that actually did that, or I'm not the only one who's struggling to make payroll tomorrow or whatever it is. And so I find that there's a lot of advice, or a lot of people will share their story. Like, I went bankrupt, or I was living on the street, or I got addicted to substances or whatever it was. And then I lost my family. And then now I'm making $1 million a week. And then I live on this yacht with all these big houses, and it's amazing. And I found that the middle part of like, but what actually did you do to, one, go through that failure, and two, actually get to making the $1 million a week or a month or whatever it is always what I like to say fluffed over. And I find that's the most important part, because the majority of us are out there craving what actually happened here. And I find that more motivating than just, I screwed up and now I'm doing great.
Yeah. It's okay to screw up because business is something like we don't get the manual, most of us. We don't know how to do it. And we figure it out as we go along, as we keep failing and we keep moving despite of all failures. And I believe that for most of the people, for most of the businesses, the biggest challenge is to have the money to keep the lights on.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
find that really interesting too, because you will hear people talk about like what keeps you up at night as a business owner. And the majority of people will say payroll, or if they are a solo founder, they'll say like paying my own rent or mortgage or whatever it is. And and then you hear them say, "Oh, but I figured it out and now my company is great." Okay, well, what did you do while you were
Mhm.
laying in bed and
Yeah.
thinking about, "I can't make payroll"? What were the steps that you did to actually make
Yeah.
payroll? Now, I know every single business is different, so it's really hard to say what I do might not be relevant to what anyone else does. But maybe if I heard from more people what they did, I would, it would help spark something in me to go, oh,
Yes.
maybe I should try this. And so I find that's a really important conversation to have. For me, I
Mm.
had to have tons of conversations with my staff saying, I can't make payroll. And there's absolutely nothing that we can do. Like, I have no more money in the bank and I want to pay you, but I have to be honest with you, I can't. And I feel like a lot of people don't have those conversations. And they have to be had, because sometimes you can't take out more loans. Sometimes you can't just go and miraculously find however much you need to make that payroll. Um, so having like an understanding staff and having those conversations, you have to have it sometimes as a business
It's
owner.
about being vulnerable because your business will show you different stages, different phases, and there would not be only the good parts of it. When people look at our success today, they don't know what we have gone through, what all we have done, that nobody knows about yet until we talk
Exactly.
about it, right? So money is something that people have a lot of shame asking for. So they would rather try to figure it all out on their own. And it's important that you need to be honest and uh, it solves a lot of problems if you are honest and vulnerable to people. And asking for help is not weakness.
Exactly. It's not a weakness at all. And tapping, I always say that you're only as successful as your network. So
Yeah.
tapping into your network and asking for help. You don't have to ask for connections. You don't have to ask for them to give you money to solve your payroll problem or whatever it is. But asking them like, I'm in this situation, what would you do? And it's amazing. Everybody wants to share and give advice. If they actually do support you, they do want to give you advice on, oh, actually, why don't you go talk to this person? They're actually looking for, maybe you run an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm. I don't know, but they're actually looking for a bookkeeper. I forgot to mention that to you last week when I was talking to them. And then boom, you can sign maybe somebody up, and then maybe you have a little extra money to get the ball rolling. But like, you never know the information that's surrounding you in your network.
Yeah, yeah. And you heard a successful entrepreneur tell women that Sunday bubble baths were her secret to success, while you were personally facing bankruptcy. Walk me through what happened in your body and in your mind, what you thought when you heard that. How easy was that to
Yes.
listen to such luxury piece of advice?
It was not easy at all. So, yeah, I was going through probably the lowest part of like my journey, and facing personal bankruptcy, and having to foreclose on my home, and lots of things were going on. And I was listening to podcasts. I was listening to a lot of business podcasts, trying to get advice on, again, what I mentioned, who else out there is going through what I went through, or gone through what I went through, and how did they solve it? That's what I wanted to know. I didn't want the motivation of, you can do it, just put your mind through it. I wanted advice from real people, not just a Google search or an AI search of like, this can help you, but I just wanted to hear it from real people. And there was a one of the kind of top 10 business podcasts, and there was a guest, a very well-known female entrepreneur, and I was listening, and she was talking about her struggles in business, which a lot of them do, which is amazing, and more people should talk about it. But when she was asked what helped her succeed in business the most, she said, honestly, I carve out an hour, every Sunday to have a bubble bath. And I was like, "That's it. I'm done. I can't listen to these anymore," because that advice is not helpful. I know that self-care and self-love and taking time for yourself is extremely important, but you can't tell me that you're going to go from 0 to this million-dollar company because you had a 1-hour bubble bath every week. There is more to the story that is not being shared, and that was what frustrated me the most. And so I'm on the personal mission to be able to say, like, there is a lot more out there, that needs to be shared and needs to be told. That's not just, I look after myself, or I go, you hear a lot of people say, go to the gym every day.
Mm.
And I find that very valuable, extremely valuable advice. And I think everybody should definitely look after themselves and look after their health. But I think that people think, I'm going to go run on a treadmill and now I'm going to be successful in business. And when that doesn't happen, people get very, very frustrated and will close down their business, and will, you know, do things that maybe it's just because they didn't put two and two together. And, going to the gym every day, it's all about accountability. So if you can be accountable to yourself at the gym, you can be accountable to yourself in business. And so those two things are related. It's not go run on a treadmill for 20 minutes and now you're going to have a successful business. And so the whole bubble bath thing made me realize that self-care isn't necessarily about creating success. It's more about what I'm actually holding myself accountable to.
Yeah, so it's interesting you talked about the gym thing and the business success. So one thing is that accountability, that, and then if you can take care of yourself, then only will take care of your business. You would care enough for your business,
Yeah.
the way you take care of yourself. And the other thing, I think that it changes a lot of energy, which is like when it changes a lot of energy, and it gets you in the kind of high energized state when you are your best self, when you are going through your day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there's times though where you do have, depending on how big your goal is, you have to make sacrifices. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's sacrifices on your own health, sometimes that's sacrifices on your family and friends. But that's just if you have these big goals. So you can't say, I want to start and run a multi-billion dollar business and think that at the beginning, you're going to be able to have, a work-life balance. Not going to happen. You have to put all of your time, just like that math equation we were talking about. You have to put all of your time and focus into building something at the very beginning to then be able to say, okay, now I can have the time to, focus on whatever. But if you have smaller goals, then maybe you can actually, and that makes you happy. I'm not saying smaller
Yeah,
goals are
it's
a bad
okay.
thing. I
Yeah,
think they're
exactly.
amazing.
Mm.
But if you have smaller goals, maybe then you can also have a really good work-life balance. And maybe that's part of your goal as well, which is absolutely amazing. And please go for it. But there's some people in this world who want to build a massive brand, a massive business, but then they also want to have all these other things on the side.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, it just doesn't work. You have to go all in for those really big goals.
Yeah. The bigger the vision, the bigger the goal, the bigger the effort. But then if you are
And the bigger
happy
the
with,
sacrifice.
yeah. And if you're happy with smaller things, and definitely, as you said, it's not bad at all. But then that may be your ambition to have a normal, low effort life, low
Yeah.
maintenance life, right?
Exactly. I know people who are so happy, just working a 9 to 5 job, being able to turn off at 5 p.m. as soon as they leave the office. Know that this is their paycheck that they're getting every week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And know that, there's a certain ladder that they can climb and they can go for it if they want, but then knowing that weekends are theirs, evenings are theirs, and they are just so happy.
They are
And
happy.
please be that way. I just want people to be happy. That's amazing. Or there's also people who will run like a little lifestyle business, so, making candles or jewelry or clothing or, something. And that just gives them so much joy.
Yeah.
And, maybe they're not going to be the massive brands of the world, but that's okay. It's giving you joy
That's
to
not their
be
goal. Yeah.
creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I love it. I love when people go after their own sized goals and not try to be somebody else.
Yeah, every life is different, exactly. Tara, you talked about sacrifices. So I'm just curious, what all sacrifices you made to get where you are today?
Yeah, so I obviously sacrificed a lot of friendships along the way. Bringing in a friend to my business at the beginning was not great. I'm very lucky that I have an extremely supportive husband. So we've been together for over 20 years. So I'm
Wow.
very excited and grateful that I did not have to sacrifice that relationship. But I've definitely sacrificed my health along the way. I've sacrificed my like daily habits along the way. I've sacrificed like a lifestyle. Like, do I want to go out at night and party with friends, or do I want to sit and work on a spreadsheet or a new post or whatever it is? And sometimes I have to sacrifice that. I've missed birthday parties, I've missed big events because of my running my business.
Yeah.
For me, though, I that's something that I love, and I'm extremely dedicated to my own end goal, and that makes me happy. And I think that what people confuse is trying to think that they have to run their life like society tells them that they have to run their life. My mother always tells me, "Tara, why don't you go out and get a hobby? Like, why don't you learn how to knit or something?" And I'm like, "Mom, I don't want to knit. I want to help people. My goal is I want to help 1 million people achieve their dreams. I don't want to knit. I want to help 1 million people achieve their dreams, and I am going to do whatever it takes to do that." And for me, that's fun. I love it. I will
That's your
work all
hobby,
day
yeah?
on a Saturday.
Mm.
I will work all day on a Saturday and a Sunday to help that. Again, I don't want to knit, and I'm very happy with that. So understanding that just because society might tell you that you need to have a hobby or you need to rest and relax or whatever. Yes, you do have to rest and relax. You can't go 24/7. It doesn't matter. It's okay. If
Yeah,
that's your
it
big
doesn't
dream and
matter.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So you named your brand F the Fluff. That's not a name you accidentally land on. So what are you actually saying F to? Was it the industry, a specific person, or a version of yourself?
It's definitely the fluff that I am saying F to. So, what I said before is that a lot of people will fluff over either the tactical parts to help other people become successful or get out of hard times, or they just don't find it, sexy or whatever. They just want to go from like, oh, this really hard time to this amazing time and let's brag about me. But sometimes the middle kind of fluffy stuff or the middle stuff is boring, but it's the most important part of it. So I want to say F to all of it and to actually tell the hard stories, um to actually be able to share those moments, those kind of boring moments, and to just be able to be that like tactical person for someone who may be going through a really hard time too. And it's interesting, out of that has spun another business where I'm helping what I like to call the untapped. So the people who are the accidental CEOs or the accidental business owners like me, the people who need that non-fluffy advice, the people who don't know what questions to ask because they just don't know, but they have these amazing creative ideas and they just need that support to be able to help them launch that business and make it a success.
Yeah, okay. So you have worked with rock stars and founders. Who's harder to manage, a global performer or a startup founder?
Everyone always asks me this and they're all the same, really, because it everyone's different. So every rock star is different, every massive CEO is different, and every founder is different. So they all have their pros and their cons. Sometimes founders will get stuck on, a bazillion shiny things. Whereas the rock stars understand that this is what I'm focusing on, but it's really hard to actually get them to do anything else because they're so focused on that. So it's all kind of just different ways of looking at being good and bad to work with. I have to say, though, that the one thing is that the more successful you are, the more that you understand, and we mentioned this at the beginning, is it's okay to ask for help. And you actually need to ask for help and delegate to be successful. You can't hold on to all of it by yourself. And new founders struggle with that a lot. And so I
Yeah.
find when I work with new founders, it's a lot about helping them actually let go. Whereas if you work with really successful people, they already know how to let go. They have a team around them and they know that
Mm.
that team has helped them grow. So it's more about strategies and how you can actually help them with their goals. So kind of two different things.
Get ready for the ultimate challenge, this or that. Choose fast, trust your instincts, and let's go.
Yeah, yeah. So now let's lighten things up, and I'm going to play a game with you, this or that. It's one of my favorite games, and I play this with every guest on the show. Just give you two choices, and just you need to pick one instinctively.
Got it. I'm ready.
Mick Jagger or on a bad day, or a startup founder on a good one.
Start a founder on a good one.
Burn it down and rebuild, or quietly fix it from the inside.
Burn it down.
The person who admits they are drowning, or the one still smiling for Instagram.
The ones who admit they're drowning.
The bubble bath entrepreneur, or the one who can't spell self care right now?
Oh, no to the bubble bath. You can't spell self-care.
Chief of staff or therapy? Because honestly, what's the difference?
No, what is the difference? But I have to say chief of staff because it's a little, I'm a little biased on that one.
The rock star who owns their chaos or the CEO who pretends they don't have any?
Rockstar owns their chaos.
Bankruptcy that breaks you or bankruptcy that builds you?
Builds you. But I feel like it's both because you broke in to build. So
Yeah.
loaded question there.
F the fluff forever or one day just a little fluff is fine.
No fluff. Zero fluff.
Zero fluff.
Forever.
The tour bus at 2 a.m. or a boardroom at 3 a.m. Which one is actually more dangerous?
More dangerous. It depends on how you define dangerous, but I'll go the tour bus at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Tell them the truth or protect the brand?
Tell them the truth.
Well played. It was fast. I liked it. Tara, in season 3, it's all about your life is a movie and you are the star of yours. And as your life is a movie, what's the title of your movie?
Wild card.
And why is that?
Period. I just think that I've always kind of been a wild card, and the building the bit like what I've done in my career. It's not a traditional path. It's not like the traditional cards you would normally get dealt in a deck. And it's and kind of who I help and who I've always wanted to help and why I started my business was to help those other kind of wild cards out there, the ones that are untapped, the ones that, if you think of wild card in a sport, in like an American sport reference, the wild cards who are trying to get into the playoffs, they're the ones who might not necessarily have a chance at the beginning, but then they get into the playoffs and then they succeed. Those are the ones that everyone's cheering for. So
They have a
that's kind of,
power.
yeah. So that's like me, but also really the people that I just want around me and that I want to help as well.
If you need to leave the world with one message today, what would that be?
There's 2 messages. So one would be F the Fluff and actually go for, seek the truth and seek those tactical, non-fluffy advice to be able to help you succeed. Don't just take what you're hearing and go with it. And also that, you're only as successful as the people that you surround yourself with. And we mentioned this, but don't be scared to tap into that network whenever you need it.
For those who would like to follow the rest of your movie, how can they do that?
Sure. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm sure we can put it in the notes of where to find me, but I'm just Tara Stubbins on LinkedIn. And then my business is called Take It Easy Group, and you can find me at takeiteasygroup.com.
Thank you for your time. It was a fun conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is The Corporate Life. More stories, more insight, more truth. Until the next episode, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe.